I fear not the dark itself, but what may lurk within it. Welcome to Lurk, bringing you creepy, strange, and bone-chilling stories, with your host, Jamie Jackson.
Hey lurkers, welcome back to another bone-chilling episode of Lurk. Before I get started, I just wanted to say sorry that this is so late getting out. It has been a crazy few weeks. So I went away about 2 weeks ago, and I got home, and about 2.5 hours after I was home, the electricity went out. Typically, it would be back on in a few hours, no big deal. I was at my parents' having dinner, we were good. Later that night, the power didn't come on. The whole town was without power. At 11 o'clock, my husband and I went and got a generator from where he works, and we were able to plug in the fridge and freezer. We were not able to run the air conditioner. That was pulling too much off of the small generator. So we made it through the first night. And when the next day dawned and we still had no power, we ended up packing everything up and heading over to my parents', where we stayed until power came back Thursday morning, I believe it was, like at midnight. So needless to say, I was unable to record because I didn't have power, and it was not possible to record at my parents' house. It was just a really crazy week. Then I had a very short window of time, and then I was packing up and coming back down south to Virginia, where I am currently. So if the recording sounds a little wonky, it's because I'm in my bedroom here with makeshift desk and a recording studio. You might hear the dogs at the door. You might hear my son yelling because he's playing a video game, and you might hear the birds outside chirping. So I will attempt to get those taken out if possible, but it is what it is. Back to the episode. This week we're scaling the volcanic crags of Edinburgh, Scotland, to explore one of the most storied and haunted fortresses in the world, Edinburgh Castle. If you're new to Lurk, welcome to the darkest corner of the podcast realm, where we dive into the paranormal, the mysterious, and the downright terrifying. For our veteran lurkers, you know the drill. Grab your sage, maybe a kilt for good measure, and let's get lurking. Edinburgh Castle isn't just a symbol of Scotland's turbulent history. It's a paranormal epicenter where centuries of battles, executions, and betrayals have left an indelible mark. Known as the most besieged castle in Britain with 23 documented attacks, this ancient stronghold has seen all. Royal intrigue, witch hunts, and ghostly apparitions that still roam its battlements. From headless drummers to spectral pipers, Edinburgh Castle is a place where the past refuses to stay buried. So let's storm the gates and uncover the dark history, eerie encounters, and restless spirits of Edinburgh Castle. Edinburgh's Old Town is a labyrinth of cobblestone streets and medieval tenements, and is dominated by a massive fortress perched atop Castle Rock, a 430-foot volcanic plug formed 350 million years ago. Edinburgh Castle looms over the city like a stone sentinel, its rugged walls blending seamlessly with the sheer cliffs below. Built over centuries, the castle's architecture is a patchwork of eras: medieval towers, Renaissance palaces, and 18th century barracks. Its strategic position made it nearly impregnable, housing Scotland's crown jewels, the Stone of Destiny, and a grim history of bloodshed. The castle's grounds are a maze of courtyards, dungeons, and hidden passages. St. Margaret's Chapel, built around 1130, is Edinburgh's oldest surviving building, a tiny stone sanctuary dwarfed by the sprawling fortress. The Great Hall, with its hammer beam roof and suits of armor, evokes royal feasts, while the dungeons, dark, damp, and rat-infested, whisper of torture and despair. The Royal Mile, stretching from the castle to Holyrood Palace, is lined with ancient closes, and beneath it lies a network of tunnels rumored to harbor spectral residents. By day, the castle buzzes with tourists. By night, it's a stage for the supernatural, where the air feels thick with unseen presences. Edinburgh Castle's origins trace back to the Iron Age, around 850 A.D., when it was a hill fort called Deen Aiden. By the way, Deen Aiden is the Gaelic name, or Gaelic, I think it's Gaelic in Scottish, the Gaelic name for Edinburgh. Gododin. Back in 850 A.D., it was defended by the Gododin tribe. The epic poem Why Gododin recounts a doomed battle in 600 A.D., where 300 warriors feasted at the site before riding to their deaths. By the 12th century, under King David I, the castle became a royal residence, hosting monarchs like Malcolm III and St. Margaret. Its strategic importance made it a target during the Wars of Scottish Independence, with Robert the Bruce's nephew, Thomas Randolph, recapturing it from the English in a daring 1314 night raid. The castle endured 23 sieges, more than any other in Britain, including a 30-minute capture by Covenanters in 1639 and a failed Jacobite assault in 1715, thwarted by a comically short ladder. It served as a prison during the Napoleonic Wars, housing French, Spanish, and American prisoners, and as a military barracks into the 20th century. The castle also witnessed grim executions, particularly during Scotland's witch hunts, when around 300 alleged witches were tortured and burned on Castle Hill. One infamous execution was that of Janet Douglas, Lady of Glamis, in 1537. Accused of witchcraft and plotting to poison King James V, Janet was a victim of political vengeance. Her brother Archibald Douglas had imprisoned the young king, earning the family royal enmity. James V tortured Janet's servants to extract false confessions, and on July 17, 1537, she was burned at the stake outside the castle, her young son forced to watch. Her tragic death is said to have birthed the Grey Lady, one of the castle's most enduring ghosts. The castle's darker chapters include the 1440 Black Dinner, where 16-year-old William Douglas, 6th Earl of Douglas, and his brother David were invited to a banquet by regents, plotting their demise. A bull's head symbolizing death was served, and the brothers were dragged to the courtyard and beheaded, despite the young King James II's pleas. These events, combined with plagues, betrayals, and executions, have steeped the castle in a restless energy that lingers today. Edinburgh Castle is a paranormal investigator's dream, with reports of apparitions, poltergeist, and unexplained phenomena spanning centuries. Its dungeons, battlements, and hidden tunnels are hotspots for ghostly activity, backed by a chilling witness accounts. So let's explore the castle's most famous spirits and the stories of those who've encountered them. One of the castle's oldest ghosts is the headless drummer boy, first sighted in 1650 during Oliver Cromwell's siege. He circled the central courtyard of the castle, round and round and round, rat-a-tat-tatting on his drum. On closer inspection, terrified castle servants saw that the unknown young boy had no head. Too afraid to approach him, they left him in the courtyard to continue his playing, and he drummed his steady march straight through the night and vanished come morning. What the staff didn't realize was that this ghostly appearance was a warning. That same year, Oliver Cromwell invaded Scotland and captured Edinburgh Castle after the Lang siege. The drummer boy has rarely been seen since, but staff in the castle have reported hearing the gentle rat-a-tat-tat of his drums from quiet corners in the dead of night. Legend says that if the drummer boy is seen again, there is impending danger to the castle, just like in 1650. A 2019 Edinburgh Live article recounts a 1960s sighting by a soldier named Angus. I was on night watch near the Argyle Battery when I heard this faint tapping like a drum. It got louder, and I saw a boy, no older than 12, marching along the battlements. His uniform looked old, and where his head should have been, there was just nothing. I froze, and he vanished into the wall. The next day I learned about the drummer boy. I never patrolled alone again. In 2001, during Richard Wiseman's paranormal experiment for the Edinburgh International Science Festival, a volunteer named Claire reported, "In the Crown Square I heard a steady drumbeat like someone practicing. It was late and the castle was empty. I followed the sound to the great hall, but it stopped. Then I felt this cold breeze and my arm started burning like someone had scratched it. There was no one there." The drummer's last reported sighting was during the 1745 Jacobite Rising, reinforcing his role as an omen of conflict. The tale of the ghostly piper is one of Edinburgh's most haunting legends, and as a former bagpiper myself, this is one of my favorites. I think it was also on a Scooby-Doo episode when they were at the Edinburgh Castle and saw Loch Ness Monster. I think it was a Highland Fling with a Monstrous Thing, Season 3, Episode 6. Look it up. Centuries ago, a network of tunnels was discovered beneath the castle, stretching along the Royal Mile toward Holyrood Palace. The Royal Mile is about a mile, as you might have guessed, and today it's dotted with shops and restaurants. According to the legend, a young boy was sent into the tunnels of this castle to explore their depths. The boy was a member of the castle's Royal Piper Corps and was tasked with playing his bagpipes as he ventured further into the tunnels so those above ground could hear him and map their path. The music stopped abruptly near Tron Kirk, halfway to the palace, his bagpipe tune replaced with eerie silence. Despite repeated attempts to call out to him, the boy never replied, and he was never seen or heard from again. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, and there was still no sign of the boy. The castle's residents began to fear the worst, and started searching the tunnels, hoping to find some clue as to his whereabouts. It wasn't until many years later, in the 18th century, that the boy's fate was finally discovered. A group of workers were making repairs to the castle's tunnels when they stumbled upon a sealed chamber. Inside, they found the skeletal remains of a young boy, dressed in a piper's uniform. The workers also discovered a set of bagpipes, which the boy had apparently been playing when he died. Since the discovery of the boy's remains, several witnesses have reported seeing a ghostly figure playing the bagpipes in and around the castle, especially at night. Some have even reported hearing the sound of bagpipes coming from the tunnels, even though no one is playing them. A 2017 Scotsman article quotes a Royal Mile shopkeeper who said that around midnight, when the street is quiet, she has heard faint bagpipes coming from below the pavement. She said that it's an eerie sound and seems like the piper is still trying to find his way out. She said some of her customers have mentioned hearing it as well. In 2023, a tourist reported that while he was visiting Edinburgh Castle, he heard the bagpipes under the Royal Mile around 1 a.m. He thought perhaps it was a street performer, but the street was empty. When he asked around, the locals said it's just the ghost piper. A 2001 volunteer named Maria described, "In the lower vaults I heard a low, mournful bagpipe tune. It echoed, like it was coming from the walls. My group felt a sudden drop in temperature, and one guy said he felt something tug his sleeve. We were all shaken." Every time I talk about bagpipes, I feel unbelievable regret at selling mine and not continuing to play. My practice chanter, that's the thing that you learn on. It's a lot like one of those plastic recorders that kids get in elementary school, but not. Anyway, it's sitting on the shelf with all of my paranormal books. It's a ghost of my bagpiping career. Our next haunting is that of Janet Douglas, also known as Lady Glamis, which I mentioned earlier. She was the noblewoman who was accused of attempted murder. Basically, she was accused of trying to poison James V and was implicated by a spurned suitor. James hated the Douglas family and swore revenge after mistreatment by his stepfather, Archibald Douglas, who at one time had James imprisoned. Janet Douglas was the subject of a number of legal actions, culminating in a charge of poisoning her husband, John Lyon, the 6th Lord Glamis, who had died on 17th September 1528. This case was dropped, and Janet was free to marry her second husband, Archibald Campbell of Skipness, by the summer of 1532. However, on July 17, 1537, Janet was convicted of planning to poison the king and communicating with her brothers, the Earl of Angus and George Douglas. Janet was imprisoned within the dungeon of Edinburgh Castle. It was easy for James to imprison Janet, but actually convicting her was more difficult. To gain evidence, James had Janet's family members and servants subjected to torture. Janet was convicted and burned at the stake on July 17, 1537, by Edinburgh Castle, which her young son was forced to watch. Legend says that she was accused of witchcraft as well. Today she's said to be the identity of the Grey Lady. Legend has it that she haunts the small chapel within Glamis Castle in Scotland, home of the Lyons. Dubbed the Grey Lady, White Lady in some reports, she can sometimes be seen kneeling at the altar. People who visit have reported feeling an atmosphere of immense sadness and desolation. Down the centuries, one seat in the chapel was reserved for her, and although the chapel is still used regularly for family functions, no one is allowed to sit in that seat. She is also often seen weeping or wandering the older wings of Edinburgh Castle. Her execution platform's construction is said to echo in nocturnal knocking sounds. A 2016 tour guide named Stephanie shared, "During a late tour, a guest swore they saw a woman in a gray dress near St. Margaret's Chapel crying softly. She faded into the wall. I've heard the knocking myself, sharp, like hammers on wood, near the dungeon where Janet was held." In 2001, a volunteer reported, "In the dungeon, I felt this overwhelming sadness, like I was going to cry. Then I heard faint tapping, like someone was building something. My skin prickled, and I saw a shadowy figure in the corner, just for a second. It was a woman, I'm sure." In 2019, a visitor shared that while she was in the dungeon taking photos, she felt a hand on her shoulder. No one was behind her. Her photos showed a misty shape near the wall, and she heard a woman sobbing. The guide told her it was most likely Lady Janet. Others speculate that the Grey Lady could be Mary de Guise, the Catholic mother and regent of Mary, Queen of Scots. Mary de Guise found herself on the losing side of the Scottish Reformation. When she died in June of 1560, her corpse was kept at the castle for months, wrapped in cloth and kept in a lead coffin to keep the smell at bay, before Protestant nobles finally allowed her remains to be shipped home to France. Needless to say, the castle is not lacking in potentially tortured souls. A lesser-known but gruesome spirit is the Dung Prisoner, a desperate inmate who hid in a wheelbarrow of manure to escape the dungeons. He was hoping to be taken out of the castle and emptied onto a nice soft dung heap. Instead of freedom, he was tipped over Castle Rock's cliffs, plummeting to his death. His ghost, reeking of dung, is said to push visitors near the battlements. How awful to be forced to smell like poop for all eternity. Near the Half Moon Battery, one visitor smelled an awful stench like rotting waste. He then felt a shove like someone wanted him off the edge. Luckily, his friend caught him. Neither of them saw anything. The guide told them it must be the dung prisoner. In 2003, a construction worker said, "I was restoring the Queen Anne building when I felt a push on my back near the ramparts. A foul smell hit me like a sewer. My mate saw a hazy figure vanish. We refused to work there alone after that." The castle's pet cemetery, a small plot for regimental mascots, is home to a spectral black dog, possibly a loyal companion. Visitors report barking or sightings near the cemetery. In 2021, a tourist said that while she was near the pet cemetery, she heard a dog bark, sharp and close. I looked, but the area was empty. Then I saw a small black shape dart across the path and disappear. It was broad daylight, but I got goosebumps. Late at night, castle staff have heard scratching and whining near the pet cemetery. One also saw a scruffy black dog sitting by a grave, but when he approached the dog, it disappeared. The dog is either seen or heard around the cemetery, and is thought to be one of the many dogs buried within its walls. With names like Fido, Topsy, Yum Yum, and Jip, take your pick as to which one it might be. An apparition of a man in a leather apron, possibly a blacksmith or torturer, has been seen in the vaults of the castle. It's just funny. Either he makes your horse's shoes or he pulls out your fingernails. No in between. In 2001, Dr. Richard Wiseman conducted a research project. The project included 240 volunteers who professed to not know anything about the ghostly hauntings of the castle. These people were let loose in the castle over a 10-day period to see what experiences, if any, they may encounter. Some reported a burning sensation on their arms and feeling that they were being watched, and one of the group reported seeing the ghost of a man in a leather apron. The apparition appeared in the vaults of the castle, where he walked through one of the doorways. He thought it was possibly a reenactor, but the doorway led to a solid wall. A woman also saw a figure wearing a leather apron. She said, "In the dungeon, I saw a tall man in a leather apron staring at me. He didn't move, just stared. Then he vanished. The air got so cold, and I felt like I wasn't welcome there." In addition to these sightings, in the castle's dungeons, objects like coins and keys have been reported to move. A 2011 article noted a guide witnessed a guest's camera fly off a table in the dungeon, shattering, and no one was near it. Photos often capture blue orbs or misty shapes, especially in the Queen Anne building and the dungeons. A 2003 construction crew's photos showed hazy blue orbs floating above workers. Sudden cold spots and sensations of being touched are also common. In 2001, a volunteer said, "In the vaults, the temperature plummeted, and I felt fingers brush my neck. My group saw a shadow move across the wall." Napoleonic War prisoners also haunt the castle. Ghosts of French prisoners from the 1800s are said to harass visitors. A 2003 worker said that while in the area of the prison cells, he heard whispering in French and felt something tug at his shirt. His tools kept disappearing as well. In the 2001 groundbreaking paranormal study at the castle, involving the 240 volunteers, participants toured vaults, dungeons, and control areas using thermal imagers and geomagnetic sensors. Nearly half of the volunteers reported phenomena, with 60% occurring in known haunted spots. The findings included sudden temperature drops, 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit, in the dungeons, sensations of being watched or touched, shadowy figures and orbs in photos, EVPs, or electronic voice phenomena, capturing whispers like "leave" and "not safe." Wiseman noted, "The results were intriguing. people felt things in the exact spots tied to ghost stories, despite no prior knowledge. The experiment detailed in a 2017 Scotsman article remains a cornerstone of the castle's paranormal lore. Edinburgh Castle has been featured on shows like Ghost Adventures and Most Haunted, where investigators captured EVP and footage of moving objects. A 2019 investigation reported that their thermal camera caught a cold spot in the dungeon that was oddly shaped like a human figure. The Spirit Box, a modified radio that continuously scans radio frequencies to possibly allow spirits to communicate, picked up a voice saying, "Janet, help." The castle remains a tourist magnet, with guided ghost tours by Mercat Tours and Wee Golden Walks. Staff has noted that guests report orbs and photos weekly, and castle cleaners hear footsteps in empty halls. Orb photos do not intrigue me, I must say. There are too many things that photograph as orbs, which include rain, snow, and dust. The castle's dog cemetery and dungeons are focal points for modern ghost hunters who use EMF meters and infrared cameras to document anomalies. Why is Edinburgh Castle so haunted? Centuries of executions, sieges, and torture, especially the Black Dinner and witch burnings, may have left residual energy or trapped souls. Castle Rock's volcanic composition could amplify electromagnetic fields, enhancing paranormal perceptions. The sealed tunnels in the castle's position on a possible ley line may act as conduits for spiritual energy. Entities like the Grey Lady and the Dung Prisoner suggest conscious spirits tied to specific traumas. Skeptics argue that creaky floors, drafts, and tourist expectations fuel ghost stories, but the 2001 Wiseman experiment and consistent witness accounts lend credibility to the castle's haunted status. Edinburgh Castle is more than a historic landmark. It's a living testament to Scotland's blood-soaked past, where the echoes of drums, pipes, and the screams still resonate. From the tragic Grey Lady to the lost piper, its ghosts form a haunting chorus that refuses to fade. Whether you're drawn to its history or its horrors, one thing is certain: Edinburgh Castle is a place where the dead walk as freely as the living. If you're ever in Edinburgh, book a ghost tour, but listen closely for the faint tap of a drum or the wail of bagpipes. You might just meet one of the castle's eternal residents. That's it for this episode of Lurk. If Edinburgh Castle has you checking your closet for headless drummers, you're in good company. Remember, you can find Lurk on all major podcast platforms or at lurkpodcast.com, where you can read our blog, meet the team, and sign up for our newsletter. Follow us on social media to share your own ghostly tales and stay updated on new episodes. If you love this haunted journey, leave us a 5-star review, tell your friends, and keep the Lurk vibe alive. And until next time, keep lurking.